My name is Nicola Sewell and I'm Health Improvement Lead for the Borders Healthy Living Network, and I'm delighted to have been invited here today to share Healthy Living Network's experience of working with people and communities, or in other words, to illustrate assets in action. At first sight, the Borders appears to be quite a picturesque region with breathtaking views, traditionally seen as a nice place to retire to. On the surface, it would appear to be a prosperous place until you dig a little deeper. Poverty in the Borders is hidden and it is dispersed, with pockets of deprivation in areas that do not score highly on the traditional deprivation index. There is a strong culture of being proud against the backdrop of our rurality and its associated higher costs of living. 13% of children live in benefit-dependent households. To give you an example, one town in the Borders ranges from 0 to 44%, demonstrating the significant inequalities gap within the same community. Recent local work estimates a £9 million loss in income through the welfare benefit reforms. This will have a significant impact on the Borders economy, in addition to its children and families. Work to offset this negative impact includes prioritising youth employment and renewing the Tackling Poverty and Financial Inclusion strategy. Work around the early years strategy to break cycles of poverty and disadvantage, and locality-based work in communities makes an important contribution to the bigger picture. Our Healthy Living Network was established in 2003 with 4 years funding from the Big Lottery Fund. The project's main aim was to address health inequalities by establishing and developing a network of community-based health improvement programmes in the 5 regeneration areas of the Scottish Borders: Burnfoot, Eyemouth, Langley, Selkirk and Walkerburn. We use a community development approach, which, as you know, involves starting from where the community is at, identifying what the health improvement priorities are in each area through consultation, and building health programmes that meet identified need. We work in partnership in order to maximise our resources and opportunities. We developed a network of opportunities located out with traditional health settings in comfortable environments that the community could relate to. The HLN staff team worked hard to build their reputation to create a diverse programme in each area, ranging from weaning for parents and babies, physical activity and food and health opportunities for young people, through to lunch clubs and gentle exercise for older people. At the end of the Big Lottery funding period, the HLN approach was highly valued by the partner agencies that had driven it forward, and mainstream funding was allocated through NHS Borders. Post Big Lottery days, we have a small staff team and all staff are part-time. The main aims of Healthy Living Network at their simplest are to reduce health inequalities and to increase community capacity for health improvement. So how do we do this? We work with established groups and the wider community to identify health priorities. We take part in joint planning at an operational level with health, education, social work, community learning and development and other local agencies. We also participate in relevant local meetings and use that opportunity to influence or bring a health improvement element to the meetings. We have developed core health improvement programmes over the 5 areas, and although they're different in their delivery and their activity, they do relate to the same themes. We use a holistic approach, but in order to fit in with our departmental objectives, we have identified 5 key themes to which our work relates, and this includes food and health, physical activity, parenting, capacity building, and community development. Within these key themes, we attempt to work with the community to address poverty by focusing on, for example, maximising income by budgeting in our food and health sessions, offering energy advice and support through fuel efficiency workshops, and providing low-cost food and health provisions. Our current situation is that we have a bottom-up approach with support from the top down. We have programmes that meet need, and although referrals come through other agencies, most participants engage voluntarily, and word of mouth is our strongest promoter. We have addressed some of the barriers to participation in communities by providing childcare, offering free taster sessions, listening to the times and locations that suit participants, and tailoring our programmes to meet needs. We have local people involved in various ways in the decision-making processes that affect the health improvement programmes in HLN, and some volunteers are trained in participatory appraisal techniques to consult with their communities. Our evaluations reflect time and again the learning experience for participants. Participants report an increase in their knowledge, skills and confidence alongside changes in their behaviour. They're able to discuss with confidence the health issues that are important to them, as well as the health benefits of participating in programmes. Participants also report subjective improvements in their physical and emotional well-being, and our evaluations are geared up to specifically capture this information. Central to this work is the development of our community infrastructures, and this varies from area to area and has taken time to develop. I'm going to focus on food production, as this has taken up a significant amount of my work and time over the last few years. Food production has been a lasting trend, with more and more people seeing it as a way to save money at one level, and in another to protect our environment by reducing the food miles associated with importing goods. There are undoubtedly health benefits associated with growing your own produce, and communities have embraced the opportunity to do this. I work over 2 of the HLN localities, Walkerburn and Selkirk, and I have taken an active role in supporting food production work to differing degrees over both areas. I've worked in partnership on both occasions, and what I've discovered is, like all community programmes, the huge social element related to working with food. In order to find out what the community's needs were, we used participatory appraisal techniques to consult with both communities, and I'll go on to discuss these in more detail. With reference to the assets approach, I've called this slide Growing Our Own Assets because that's essentially what we've been doing in HLN over the last 8 years through our programmes and community health volunteering opportunities. While I can't say that all of our work is assets-based, I can say that as a team we probably aspire to do this. One example I can talk you through is the Walkerburn Community Growing Project. When I started in Walkerburn, you could say on the surface it was asset deprived, until you got in there and realised that they were very rich in assets. They were particularly limited in terms of their access to fruit and vegetables, and that was one of the first priorities that we set out tackling. Over time, we supported the village by working in partnership with the post office, which was their only shop, offering fruiting groups and cooking sessions and food and health programmes. We trained up volunteers, and a new partnership followed with Healthy Living Network, the community and social works criminal justice team. We recruited, trained and supported volunteers to distribute vegetables grown by people on community service back to the community, to those who needed it most. For example, those on low incomes, older people and children and families. We worked with community health volunteers as they sat closer to the people who needed them most. And we chose Walkerburn due to its size and enthusiastic volunteer network. The first year was a pilot, and in the second year there was an expectation. By year 3, the volunteers asked themselves, why couldn't they develop something locally in Walkerburn? We'd had a good experience and we could build on this. We undertook some more participatory appraisal research, and the enthusiasm for food-related work and solutions followed through. I got together with the Community Development Trust, who had a new worker with the time and remit, and they took on a bid for $85,000 to the Climate Challenge Fund to develop an allotment and a community garden. This was supported in the community with a steering group of 25 local people. We approached the Social Housing Association, who were keen to work with us, and soon we had a 20-plot site and a community growing space. The Walkerburn Allotment Garden has been formed, and we have a volunteer group who meet together to work and plan for the community and the garden. We have just met to finalise a local action plan for 2012, and this includes actions to address poverty through establishing links with Job Centre Plus to offer places to unemployed people on their horticulture training and community garden. The overall ethos of the garden is based around an exchange system, exchanging labour for training, skills and produce. The original idea is still ongoing as we distribute vegetables in year 2. Central to the success of this piece of work has been the development of local leadership. The key point I'd like to make here is that the land was always there in Walkerburn. It had been there for years. It was the people, their enthusiasm and their commitment that brought it to life. Bannerfield was a very different area for us. The food and health research highlighted the same issues as the other communities, but the community themselves were not as engaged in the process. This was due to a variety of reasons, including the fact that our reach wasn't as significant and our infrastructure was less established. Having actioned the food and health interests of participants, we got together with community learning and development and hit the street to meet people and ask them what their health needs were. Most people responded with an interest in growing and gardening, and on turning up at the sessions we asked them why, and they told us they saw it as a way of saving money. This work is developed with links to the allotment project in Bannerfield, but it hasn't really got the same strengths as Walkerburn, and I think that's due to the fact that the infrastructure is not as established. Although Bannerfield successfully recruited participants, the results were not immediate enough for the hard-to-reach group that we had engaged. Had the infrastructure been developed, the outcomes may have been significantly different. Healthy Living Network's real strength is engaging people. The communities are all different and therefore have different needs. We pride ourselves in undertaking meaningful engagement with people in order to build trust and follow through with what we say we will. We have a range of diverse programmes that meet the needs and build community capacity for health improvement, with volunteers trained to support breakfast clubs, lunch clubs, food and health work in schools, and to promote activities and engage participants. Opportunities for community health volunteers vary in relation to levels of engagement, including those who might want to help in what they feel like a small way, or those who want to fulfil employability aspirations. Through training, support and development, we have a committed volunteer team who promote our work and raise the consciousness of their communities. Communities are consistently evolving and they appear to move faster than ever, which I suppose is in keeping with society at large. Key to the process approach is the idea of time, as it does take time to build relationships and trust, and often this presents a challenge, particularly for us in the NHS, alongside the qualitative nature of our evaluation information. In the future, we would like to build on our success to date. We would like to continue to grow our own assets for health improvement, which would involve strengthening our layer on the ground, the people. We'd like to work creatively with our partners, in particular with voluntary sector, so we can combine our resources and meet demand in a way that maximises our opportunities. We are engaging with the wider equalities agenda through our work with people with learning disabilities and with groups of women. We'd like to work with our department colleagues in NHS borders to create a meaningful programme of training that builds community capacity to support one another through what will be difficult times. We do, however, take a realistic view of the work we do and recognise that this requires an ongoing commitment at all levels. Community development is part of the Scottish Borders Community Planning Partnership priorities around places and communities, and Healthy Living Network features within this. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Nicola. I crammed a lot in there, certainly.
Sorry.
Well done. It's like some kind of competition there. However, you got a lot of interesting information over there, certainly about the hidden poverty that you talked about first of all, and it was interesting that you brought in the whole issue of welfare reform and the impact of that quite early in your presentation there. Strong focus on partnership, of course, as you've talked about, and then some examples of literally people growing their own assets, which I thought was interesting. I thought the most interesting part for me certainly was this issue of infrastructure, which we already touched on, about what kind of capacity and infrastructure is already there and what the results of that are likely to be. And you finished off with a point about the way in which communities evolve over time and the importance of time, I think again as Ian had talked about, in terms of working things through and allowing things to evolve and develop rather than jumping from time to time. Before we go back to discussion amongst our tables then, are there any particular comments or questions for Nicola here? I seem to have corralled all of the microphones up here. Perhaps somebody could come and rescue me and take it round about. That would be great. There's a question at the table right at the back there. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I enjoyed the presentation. It was good.
Thanks.
I just wanted to ask you, in terms of the allotments and the community garden that you mentioned, are they sort of income-generating projects for you? Are they self-sustaining, or do they have that potential, and is that one of your aims for those projects?
At the minute they are, yes. We've got the allotment site, which has 20 allotments, and these are let out to people that live locally in Walkerburn, and then the community garden is funded through the allotment rents. We've got a really minimal lease on the land that we have through the Social Housing Association, and that's over a long period of time to allow us the opportunity to develop it and think about generating income in the future. The produce, we obviously can't sell that, but that is distributed to people on low incomes and through schools and the different community groups. But that is part of their vision in the long term, is to look at more innovative ways of doing that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And so like the staff support there, Nicola, is you refer to that being a part-time crew now.
There
You've
is,
been
yeah.
mainstreamed from what was the big lottery funding.
That's
that
right, and our input is probably quite minimal. It's more of a supportive role at the minute. The community have really taken it on. They've developed the Walkerburn Allotment Society and the volunteers that run the community garden, and really our support is to link them into other statutory services, for example the Job
I
Centre
see.
Plus or wherever else, and support them to do
Good,
those pieces of
okay.
work.
Question from Sarah there.
You were talking about, and coming back to the question on infrastructure, if the infrastructure isn't already there, what are your lessons from Bannerfield in terms of how to create and sustain that?
I think what I found in Bannerfield, it was quite, we almost rushed in because we got so much enthusiasm and we've gone out there and spoken to people, and I think what I discovered is that you do need those people on the ground, the layer, the enthusiasm, the people that are going to go out there and promote it and engage others. And to just, going back to Walkerburn about 10 years ago, we did a mapping exercise and really got people to think about, well, what was the gaps in the area, what did they want to do about it, and I think that's been our long-term vision, what we've worked towards over those years, and in Bannerfield we almost tried to do it the other way around. So I think it gave it really, to get that infrastructure established is a key to, I would say, our success in Walkerburn.
Right, okay.
Does that answer?
Another question here, if you don't mind, Nicola. It's obviously a very popular presentation. We've got lots of questions here.
I really enjoyed the presentation as well. And, I thought one of the things that struck me was when, I think it was in the Bannerfield date, or the second one,
Yeah, Bannerfield.
when people had said they wanted gardening sessions. I thought it was great that you'd gone on and asked why, because I think
Right.
too often you can just take things at face value, but the underlying issue there is clearly poverty,
Yes.
to kind of to save money. But what I was going to ask you was, what is the impact of the work? Has that filtered out into the NHS, the Borders NHS, wider health improvement teams, or is it something that's been taken up and recognised within your own organisation?
Hugely. I think we're now looking at service redesign within the health improvement team, and possibly work going around a locality approach through our Healthy Living Network areas. And in addition to that, thinking about the wider impact, Walkerburn 10 years ago was an area of deprivation. It was one of the 5 key areas for support, and now that doesn't fall into the area of deprivation anymore. So although we can't say it's because of Healthy Living Network, it certainly has been a contributory factor, I would assume, to changing that community status. So.
Okay, well that's interesting, bringing a place-based focus into the NHS
department.
support work. Okay.
Huge shift.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions for Nicola specifically at this point? No? Okay. I think then what we should do now is we should move into... Thank you very much, Nicola. Apologies.